welcome to the show. I'm Antisocial. And this is the Antisocial Network.
I want to talk to her, but my face is up against the wall. Yeah, I think she wants to talk to me, but I'm antisociable. Yeah. Antisociable.
This week, I'm talking about kink, kids, and who belongs at Pride. Thanks for tuning in. I started writing this 3 years ago, but never really finished it. I didn't know exactly how to say what I needed to say, and was justifiably concerned about being a cis straight person and speaking on the topic of who belongs at Pride. Technically, I didn't belong there either, so who was I to pitch a piece about it? It sat on my computer until this week, when I started seeing a lot of talk online about whether Pride was kid-friendly. Apparently, there's been some effort made to remove kink from Pride and sanitize it for a younger audience. In turn, this has created a debate about what Pride means and how we honor its origin story. Many argue that Pride has never been a kid-friendly event and was in fact started as a protest. The first pioneers of Pride were brutalized and demonized. It has not always been a parade of floats and a safe space for all. In fact, it still isn't even a safe space for adults. Why would people assume it was safe for children? That brings me to the piece I started writing and abandoned 3 years ago. It was Long Beach Pride, 2018, and I was skating in the parade with my friends. I've done this several years since I moved to the area in 2010, and this year I had decided to wear a shirt that read, "This slut is not ashamed." I didn't have the courage to wear it in public before this, but Pride seemed like the perfect time to own my promiscuity. I got so many compliments, and it felt like the right decision. About halfway through the parade, a large white man burst through the crowd and came running up to me to tell me, "Oh my God, I love your shirt." I high-fived him and said, "Right on." And just before he ran back to where he was standing with his friends, he slapped my ass. I decided to skate back towards him. I must admit that I was influenced by 2 recent videos I had seen where women fought off a public assault similar to this. One in which a festival goer was groped at the Rhythm and Vines Fest in New Zealand, and she and her friend turned around and physically attacked him to the horror of onlookers. The other was surveillance video taken in a restaurant in Georgia, where a customer grabbed a waitress while passing behind her, and she swiftly reacted and body slammed him. They're both highly satisfying clips. You should look them up. Anyway, maybe the guy who slapped my ass at Pride had seen those videos too. Or perhaps he just knew his behavior was inappropriate, because when he saw me coming, he started wincing and protecting his face with his forearms and proclaiming, "I was just joking around." That's when I spit directly into his face. Sidebar, how is grabbing somebody, particularly a stranger, a joke? Honk your own tits if you want to be funny. The middle-aged woman that was with him looked shocked by what I had done, and I was shaking with rage. I skated away, vibrating with adrenaline. The parade was still going on. I returned to my skating friends, some of whom saw everything and congratulated me on how I had reacted. Still, I was amped up and on guard. I continued on, shaken but confident in how I had handled the situation. A little ways down on the parade route, a couple of dudes on the sidewalk also declared they loved my shirt. I told them that another man who had complimented my shirt had just slapped my ass and that I spit in his face. Immediately, one of the guys' enthusiasm turned to criticism, and he told me, "Oh no, if you have that kind of attitude, you don't belong at Pride." I was utterly deflated. I already had my misgivings about being a cisgendered straight woman infiltrating Pride like it's some sort of rainbow-colored Coachella, but here was a gay man telling me to my face that I didn't belong at Pride if I wasn't down with having strangers put their hands on me. I refuse to believe that bodily autonomy goes out the window just because it's Pride. I yelled back, "That is just more misogyny. I have a right to bodily autonomy anywhere I go." And me and this dude were getting into it right there on the side of the parade route when the other dude broke it up and I skated off. Now, I was full on raging like the Hulk. Not only was I sexually assaulted, but I was invalidated by some other person with a dick telling me that I have no right to celebrate Pride and also expect grown men to keep their hands to themselves at the same time. I was confused and questioned if maybe he was right, if maybe I was overreacting and really didn't belong at Pride. It took me a while to unpack how I felt surrounding this incident and be able to truly articulate why it upset me so much. It was this unsettling reality that as a woman, I am discounted and objectified every single day, and that despite being marginalized, even gay men enjoy a security I will never know. It was crushing and disturbing to be at an inclusive event like Pride and have a man tell me that strangers grabbing me is simply what I should expect from Pride. It occurred to me that gay men can still benefit from male privilege and may even serve as arbiters of the patriarchy. I was overcome with the harsh truth that even at Pride, some ass bags can ruin a good time. Straight and gay alike. The ass grab was one thing, but it really hurt me to have a person who looked more deserving of Pride or who seemed like they belonged there while I was just a guest or an ally or whatever, basically say I should shut up, it wasn't that big of a deal, and that I don't understand Pride. I felt betrayed. I had wrongly assumed that everyone at Pride shares my values. It was a wake-up call that just because someone is a member of a marginalized group doesn't mean I can presume a common ground. Now that I've had some time to reflect and ruminate on the experience, I realize I was naive and privileged to believe such a thing. Being a gay man doesn't make you automatically safe or evolved. One marginalized person does not a scholar make. It might make you more inclined towards empathy or an understanding of discrimination, but it's not guaranteed. Lesson learned. Before I unpack this even further and dive into the controversy surrounding Pride for kids, I'll cut to break. Helicesh is the early 2000s themed marijuana subscription box of your dreams. Is pot legal in your state, but you miss the days when it wasn't? Helicesh brings the nostalgia and thrill of buying illegal pot to your door, delivered safely in a sealed, overly taxed, and totally legal way. But you don't have to know that. Your delivery man shows up in his 1989 Camry with at least one headlight or taillight out, guaranteed. Your weed will always come in something new and exciting, from a Ziploc bag to a used Chips Ahoy package. And sometimes it's just seeds and stems. Your driver then stays a while as you smoke him out with some of the weed he just sold you, because he doesn't want to raise suspicion by leaving too soon. So you watch old skateboard videos and jackass. Upgrade to our premium box for the authentic experience, complete with court dates and heavy fines. Helicesh. Do you know what the difference between you and Cardi B is? Do you wonder why you haven't achieved the fame of a Kardashian and agonize over why you don't get the respect you deserve? Most influencers don't realize they are missing a key ingredient when it comes to success. Fancy bags! Here at Fancy Bags, you don't need money in your actual purse because you've spent all your money on the bag itself. Who needs money when your shoulder sack can say everything for you? Don't be held back by lesser, inferior bags and start your new life today with Fancy Bags. Bags start at just $16,000 and can be financed for as low as $4.99 a month. Call now! Welcome back. I wanted to create a clear delineation between what I wrote 3 years ago and how I feel today. It's probably a good thing I didn't finish that piece because I wasn't quite yet equipped with the correct language to articulate what I felt. I was close, but reading my words back now, I cringe. I was picking up on something about the juxtaposition of being somewhere intended to celebrate diversity and inclusivity while still being victimized by patriarchal toxicity. And I was right to acknowledge my privilege and naivete had misinformed my entitlement to safety at an event that was historically dangerous. I also was not wrong to be outraged that a presumably cis straight man had sexually assaulted me in public, and it was not out of line for me to question the gay man's male privilege who had later defended the action. But something was lacking from my narrative. What was missing was the acknowledgement that pride was founded by people who had routinely experienced worse and bravely fought back in the face of public outrage and violence. And, given my limited capacity for language surrounding it at the time, there was also insufficient understanding of consent and intersectionality. I correctly determined that the gay man who told me I did not belong at Pride was perhaps asserting his own male privilege. It was possible that he had not understood or thought about the fact that I was a cis woman who routinely experienced marginalization for being a woman, and that there was another dynamic at play when a large, presumably cis straight man physically violated my personal space and then claimed it was a joke. And I surely did not understand the parameters of consent and play that normally accompany being in gay spaces, like, for instance, a gay bar or a kink dungeon, or even Pride for that matter. For him, a man slapping his ass at Pride was a vastly different experience than it was for me. I had assumed the gay man did not understand that I was being sexually assaulted by a straight man, in the same way women are everywhere they go, and he had mistakenly assumed I was shocked and offended by gay culture. I was upset at being labeled a prude when the issue was consent. The truth of the matter was, I had previously been afraid to wear my "this slut is not ashamed" shirt because I was fearful of exactly this happening. If I were to wear that in public anywhere, I ran the risk of being sexually assaulted, and I knew that. That man could have slapped my ass at the gas station or standing outside the ATM, because the reality was that by declaring on my shirt that I was a slut, strangers somehow felt entitled to my body. It had nothing to do with pride. What was actually taking place was not that I was being told by a queer person that I deserved to be sexually assaulted at Pride, but that I was being told yet again by a man that I was asking for it because of what I was wearing. And even worse, it was being framed in a way that said I was undeserving of Pride and didn't belong there because I couldn't take a joke. That was what was at the crux of the issue. It may not have been intended that way, but that was the way it was received. For years, I had felt welcome and safe at Pride, but now I felt confused, sad, and angry. I thought about this incident a lot when I learned that people were concerned about Pride being a safe space for kids. What I was feeling is that no place is a safe space for kids. Throughout history, when we have seen kids at protests, it's typically to demonstrate to young people the power of community and the importance of equality. People who brought kids to Pride 20 years ago knew there'd be drag queens and dominatrixes and nudity. The important message was marching for visibility and rights. They didn't shield their children from the reality of queerness. To have any illusion that Pride is some community parade with bubbles and flags and is devoid of controversy and violence is willfully ignorant. And I'm not saying Pride should be violent or that it shouldn't be a safe space. I'm in no way suggesting that if you go to Pride, you should expect to be groped too. I'm just saying that it's unrealistic to think we've achieved equality. Just because Target sells rainbow shirts in June now doesn't mean violence and discrimination no longer exist. And when I said there is no safe space for children, I wasn't just talking about Pride. Mass shootings are rampant in this country, and our idea of solving the problem is marketing bulletproof backpacks to parents. To turn Pride into an argument about family-friendly appropriateness does a disservice to the history of Pride and the trailblazers that came before us. Plus, plenty of kid-friendly Pride events and organizations already exist without having to rebrand or tone down Pride celebrations meant for adults. A recent buzzword we've been hearing is rainbow capitalism, which is the phenomenon of corporations and businesses adopting a meaningless facade of support for the LGBTQ community in an effort to increase their profits. These attempts don't do anything substantial to support actual change, while exploiting the gay community and raking in money. Arguably, this mass marketing of rainbow party supplies, coupled with the watering down of queer acceptability, has contributed to a notion that people, mostly cis and straight, even feel they have the right to demand Pride be more kid-friendly in the first place. That was also not properly articulated in my first attempt to write this. My entitlement as a white, cis, straight woman to feeling safe at Pride. Where did that come from? Again, I was correct in my initial assessment to call out sexual harassment and what appeared to be the intersectionality of consent and male privilege. I hinted at my own naivete and feeling out of place, but I couldn't put my finger on it. One of the things I've always said in response to being told to tone down my language or behavior because kids might be present is, I exist too. If a parent doesn't like my language or behavior, then they've just stumbled into a teachable moment. I'm not going to change who I am for them. Of course, sometimes you're in a family-friendly or a kid-safe zone where language and behavior should be modified, but otherwise, out in the world, where I'm just living my life? Hell no. If you hear me swearing in public or you see me spitting or giving the finger, you do not have a right to tell me, please, children are present. You do, however, have every right to point at me and tell your child, don't be like that person. If you don't want your child seeing adults in bondage or with their dicks out, you're the one who doesn't belong at Pride. A 2019 article from Huffington Post echoes this sentiment with the title, Are Pride Parades Kid-Friendly? Parents say kids can handle the kink. In it, several parents explain how Pride is beneficial for children and can even serve as a learning experience. A retired sex therapist named Ren told the Huffington Post, From kink to nakedness, Pride is an excellent opportunity for parents to do unbiased sex education. And as one parent noted, queer visibility is important and part of queer culture for children of gay parents or for children who might be queer themselves. S. Bear Bergman said, It's their right as queer spawn. And as a parent, I might want to take my kids to Pride because they might be lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, or two-spirit. This discussion blew up on Twitter 2 years ago when @lesbianese, an account which has now been deleted, posted a list of how people should behave at Pride. It read, a few reminders for Pride Month. 1. Large corporations just want your money. 2. Lesbian exclusion is ugly. 3. Trans women of color are the ones that led the fight for our rights. 4. Please don't bring your kink fetishes to Pride. There are minors at Pride and this can sexualize the event. @lesbianese got the first 3 right, but a lot of people took issue with that last part. And so do I. How can you be sex positive if you teach children that sex is shameful and wrong? Sure, asexual people exist and romantic love or intercourse are not requirements for some people, but for others, sex is very much a part of a healthy relationship. And because being queer has been demonized and punished for so long, being unapologetically gay is an act of bravery. Flaunting queerness and kink at Pride is an act of revolution. Sex is and has always been associated with Pride. Therefore, you cannot separate gay and lesbian pride from sexuality. Celebrating gay-lesbian love is inherently sexual. It's the whole point. To me, it's obvious that it's not sex this person has a problem with. They specifically mentioned kink and fetishes. Presumably, they have ingrained prejudices against promiscuity or multiple partners. Or they're afraid that exposure to such things will be some sort of gateway drug into premature sexual experimentation, like seeing a dyke with a strap-on will suddenly turn 11-year-old baby gays into fast girls, or who knows what. It could be a holdover from the epidemic of the AIDS crisis, which is not an invalid concern. Thousands of gay men died while the government did nothing, happy to ignore the problem and hope homosexuality would go away. But if anything, the community has embraced sex education. I've never gone to a Pride parade where I didn't leave with a pocket full of free condoms. To remove sexuality from Pride is a form of self-loathing and censorship. There is nothing wrong with sexuality, kink, fetishes, or expressing them. Sure, there are age-appropriate times to introduce topics to children, but that's true about anything in the world, from social media to video games to public education. @Lack of Impulse Control on TikTok has a great page where she shares how to have difficult yet age-appropriate conversations with her kids. She has 2 kids who are very different in age. One is 14 and the other is 7. She doesn't avoid or sugarcoat difficult subjects, but rather uses what she calls mechanics versus specifics. For instance, if her youngest asks about sex, she still answers honestly, but scientifically and without explicit detail. As she explains in one video, mechanics not specifics refers to when they're little they get to know the science behind something. When they get older they learn about the relational portions. So when they're little they know the science about sex, erections, those kinds of things. When they're more adult they get to learn about how to do that with other people. Lack of Impulse Control does an excellent job of breaking down how to tackle age-appropriate conversations without lying to our kids. We can either coddle kids and try to protect them by creating a bubble around them, or we can prepare them for reality and do the hard work of actually parenting our children. This involves being able to have hard conversations with your children and being willing to let your child ask questions and learn. It means understanding that you cannot control every influence that children encounter, but trusting your ability to lead your kid anyway. Because if you have confidence in your ability to parent, then nothing should threaten your child's perception of the world, whether they see a dildo or not. If you're not willing to have these discussions and teach your children the real reason why we have Pride in the first place, then don't take your kid to Pride. That's my show for this week. I'm Antisocial, and this is the Antisocial Network. If you want even more access to me, Antisocial, follow me on Instagram at the Antisocial Network. To support my content creation dreams and to receive 2 bonus episodes a month, subscribe to my Patreon for only $5 at patreon.com/the Antisocial Network. And for a limited time, new patrons will receive Antisocial Network stickers and a top secret handmade zine made by me, Antisocial. To send me voice memos or to submit your own funny fake ad that I might use in my podcast, download the Anchor app and find my show there. As always, new episodes are available in the free feed every week. See you next Wednesday. Later!
But I'm antisociable, yeah. Antisociable.